Welcome back to another BMX bike review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Fly Orion BMX bike. And my goal with this channel is to help you get into BMX and help you get better at BMX, okay? So the Fly Orion is a high-level BMX bike that weighs 25.1 pounds and costs $639. In this review, I'm going to help you decide if this is a good bike for you or if you should spend your money on something else. There are a lot of bikes out there. There are so many different options, and it's really hard to be confident that you're picking the right BMX bike. That's why I put together this BMX matchmaking service. So before we get into the review, if you want to fill this out, you just click the link here on the screen. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and then I'm going to find 3 bikes that are perfect for you, okay? You just tell me about yourself, fill out that form. I'll find 3 bikes that are perfect for you. Wait about a day because it takes me a little bit to get this together and get it sent out to you. And then after you get that email, look at the bikes that I recommended for you and then buy your next bike. It makes the process very simple for you. Now, some frequently asked questions that people have about the Fly Orion bike. The first one is, how much does it weigh? And like I said before, the Fly Orion weighs 25 pounds and 1 ounce, 25.1 pounds. It's a pretty light bike, actually. Finding a complete bike around 25 pounds is kind of hard to do, and so it's always nice when the bike weighs right around 25 pounds. A lighter BMX bike is going to make it easier for you to maneuver it and control it and pick it up and do tricks on it. Heavier bikes require a lot more strength and a lot more bike control. The next question is, can you upgrade this bike? Yes, it's a high-level bike and all the parts are pretty good on it. However, if you want taller handlebars or you want longer crank arms or you want to switch it up and you want to upgrade the parts, everything on the bike can be upgraded and can be customized. It's a very upgradable bike. Can you grind with the Fly Orion? No. The Fly Orion doesn't have any pegs or any hub guards, so right out of the box, you will not be able to grind with it. If you want to grind with this bike, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go to your favorite website where you buy BMX bikes and BMX parts and look up pegs and hub guards. Once you buy some pegs and hub guards, you'll be able to put them on the Fly Orion and then grind with it. This bike's marketed more as a dirt-specific BMX bike, so grinding wasn't super high on Fly's priority list, and it's not one that they included pegs with. There are other bikes where Fly did include 4 pegs and 4 hub guards. The Orion was not one of those. Does it come with brakes? Yes, the Fly Orion has stock brakes with removable brake mounts. Just about any Fly bike, when you're buying it, you can decide if you want the bike to come with brakes or if you want it to come brakeless. And this is a really unique option. The brakeless option is going to weigh a little bit less and it's going to cost a little bit less. But I always recommend that new riders get a bike with brakes because you need your brakes to save you. You don't have the bike control to ride around brakeless, and it's just really important to have brakes. So I recommend that everyone gets brakes when they get their bike. However, if you are sure you're a brakeless guy, you don't want brakes, then you can buy this bike and choose the brakeless option, and then you won't have any brakes. The next question is, what kind of hub does it have? The Fly Orion is going to come with a sealed cassette with a 9-tooth driver. Let's talk about the sizing of the bike because how big the bike is and how tall you are is one thing that a lot of people overlook. My first bike was way too small for me and it made it really hard to control it because the bike was just super responsive, super small. It was hard to jump and hard to do tricks on it. And later on, I learned that it's really important to get a bike that's the proper size. So let's go over the sizing and help you find the proper sized bike. The top tube on the Fly Orion is a 21-inch top tube. This is an extra large top tube that's going to be best for riders who are over 6 foot. I'd say between 6 foot and 6'3" is the best height for a 21-inch top tube. If you're much over 6'3", you might want to consider a 21.25 or a 21.33. There are complete bikes out there with a top tube this big, although they're few and far between. But anyway, 21-inch top tube is best if you're between 6 foot and 6'3". Alongside of the top tube, there are other geometries. You've got chainstay length, you've got head tube angle, you've got standover height, you've got all these different geometries. And what those frame geometries do is they affect how the bike's going to handle when you're riding it. And because of the geometry on the Fly Orion, this bike is a very mellow bike. It's got a longer chainstay length. It's got a more mellow head tube angle. It's got a taller standover height. The geometry on this bike makes it really stable at high speeds. So if you're riding big dirt jumps, you're riding pump tracks, it's going to feel good and it's not going to make it feel like it just wants to loop out from under you. And that's important if you're a dirt rider. Now we talked about the sizing. Let's talk about the quality of this bike. This bike has full chromoly handlebars, a full chromoly frame, full chromoly forks with a one-piece steer tube, full chromoly 8-spline cranks, and double wall pinned rims. This is the first bike in Fly's lineup. If you go like from price, ascending price, this is the first bike that you'll run into that has double wall pinned rims instead of double wall, semi-double wall rims. So these are actual double wall rims with a pinned seam. They're much higher quality than the semi-double wall rims that you'll see on the cheaper Fly bikes. So just as like a quick refresher, I want to explain the difference between high tensile steel and chromoly so you can understand why some bikes are way more expensive than other bikes. High tensile steel is more affordable, but it's a lot less durable. It's also going to be a heavier option, and the material bends on impact. Chromoly is more expensive, but it's like 4 times stronger. It's also lighter, and it's going to crack at the welds because the actual tubing construction is strong enough to withstand impact. The weaker point of a constructed chromoly frame is generally at the weld points, versus on high tensile steel, the weakest point is generally the actual tubing. So chromoly is a much better option if you can afford it. And if you're a heavier rider, like if you're over 160, 170 pounds, you should be on something with full chromoly because it's going to last as you progress and as you put a beating on it. Okay, so with that being said, the quality of the Fly Orion is a 7.38. This is actually a fairly high quality bike. That's why it got that high quality score at the beginning when I said this is a high quality bike. It's a high quality bike because of that score. That's out of 10. That's a pretty good score. Now, some of the pros and cons are the pros include this bike being dirt specific. It's pretty hard to find dirt specific BMX bikes with a bigger geometry and extra features like 29:9 gear ratio. So that is really cool that we got a dirt specific bike. It's got high quality parts on it. It's got a really strong CNC machined sprocket. It's got a 510 chain, and it's available in a handful of different options. You can choose left-hand drive or right-hand drive, brakes or no brakes. You can really modify this bike and make sure that you're getting everything the way that you would want it if you ordered this bike. Some of the cons include the low rise top load stem. This is something interesting because it's a top load stem, and typically with top load stems you get a pretty high rise and it makes the bike feel taller. The rise on this is only like 12 millimeters. It's a pretty low top load stem, but a top load stem nonetheless. So it's going to feel better for dirt riding because it's a little bit more stable with the top load stem look. And this is it's an interesting thing. I was looking over the specs. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And the grips on this bike are a little bit uncomfortable in my opinion. The one time I rode these fly grips, I was like, this kind of sucks, but that's just my hot take. Grips are really inexpensive to replace. Now, I already mentioned what type of riding this bike is good for, but let's see how it scores in the scoring system. For street, this bike scored a 2.19 out of 10. In park, it scored a 4.64, and in dirt, it scored an 8.4. As you can see, this is all made up of the parts and the geometries that are included on this bike. This bike has unique dirt-specific stuff like a longer chainstay, a mellow head tube angle, a 29:9 gear ratio, a cassette. It has a lot of parts and thought that goes into making this bike dirt specific. So when you get it, when you take it out of the box and you start to ride it, if you immediately went to some small dirt jumps or you went to a pump track, this bike is going to feel at home. If you tried to ride street with it, it'd be a little bit disappointing because the big mellow geometry makes technical street riding hard. It doesn't have pegs, it doesn't have hub guards, so this bike's definitely best for dirt riding. Does this bike, the Fly Orion, come with a warranty? Yes. All of Fly bikes are warranted for manufacturer defects for 2 years. So if you buy the Fly Orion and you have any issues with it within the 2-year window, then you can reach out to Fly and they're going to help you out with the warranty process. You just need to make sure that it's a manufacturer defect issue. And those can vary, and it's up to Fly to decide if it's a manufacturer defect. But if you nose case something and break all your stuff, like typically that's not a manufacturer defect, that's just normal wear and tear. Bikes are meant to break, bikes are meant to be abused, so don't worry too much about this. But it's nice to know that if something happens on the company side, like if Fly messed something up, that they're going to take care of you as long as it shows itself within 2 years. Now, my honest thoughts about the Fly Orion are that I think this is a pretty solid bike. I'm not going to lie. Dirt specific bikes are harder to find, and it's cool when they have them. I don't know how many people get into BMX really wanting to ride dirt. I think street is a more popular option. But if you're a dirt guy and you want to ride dirt and you don't want to spend like $700 or $800, or like the We the People Revolver is a really good dirt specific bike, but it's like $1,200 or $1,300. It's very, very expensive. This bike is only $650, has a lot of the same characteristics as the Revolver without the aftermarket quality. This is still good quality. It's full chromoly. It's got double wall rims. It's a high level bike. The Revolver would be more of a pro level bike. So anyway, this is a solid bike for like a mid-level to high-level rider who wants to do dirt riding, and they got to be a little bit taller. And but yeah, so you don't have too many dirt-specific options, especially in this price range, and I really appreciate that. I had a hard time coming up with cons on this bike. I couldn't think of a whole lot on here that I was like, oh, I hate that. I hate that. Like I had to throw the grips on there because I couldn't think of much else. This is a solid bike. I think the price is great. And I think the quality is great. And I think what's included in it and the options and the ability to go brakeless or not brakeless, left-hand drive, right-hand drive, like that's really cool. That's really unique. So this is a solid bike. I definitely approve. If you want to watch a review that I did of the top 11 BMX bikes for this year, that's up here on the screen. And then this other review here is one that I think you'll like because the bike is similar quality to this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.